All right. So, as this is entitled, today we're going to talk about forgiveness and stress and why it's important to forgive people. But first, you must know that God always forgives us whenever we do something wrong. And there isn't a moment where He doesn't forgive us. So just keep that in mind. And forgiving people, like, why you should forgive others, even if you won't, like, verbally, or like, even if the other person won't ever like know you're forgiving them, they don't have to. You just need to know, do you forgive them as well? Do you blame anything that happened between you and this person? If so, do you forgive yourself? And like earlier, how I said God forgives us, God does forgive you for you blaming yourself. He forgives the other person. He forgives you. Like, He has. But this is the part where you come in. Do you meet Him? Do you meet God where you agree that you forgive? Yes, it may still hurt, but don't let the pain and the hurt get between you and your relationship with God. Forgiving someone, it could be difficult, but at the same time, it is doable. It may take some time, but by acknowledging that you need to forgive someone, that is a step in the right direction. And remember, that person could also be yourself. Also, sorry, the train of thought went to a different station. Let's see. When you're forgiving someone, a lot of emotions could come up, meaning you didn't feel your emotions when it occurred, or just new ones came up. Be sure to feel those emotions. Be sure to have like a support group, that like people you could contact if you're having a rough night, and ask them to, like, hey, I'm having a rough night, can you pray for me? And like, that's it. Simple as that. I know it sounds simple, and then you're like, oh, but I don't want to distract anyone or disturb anyone. Your support group is there for you, and these are people that you trust. And trust me, if these people agreed to help you whenever you are feeling down, and you text them, hey, I don't feel so great right now, can you pray for me? You are not being a burden to those people or to that individual, because that's what they agreed to do. They agreed to help you. And by helping you, they could just pray for you. And yeah, especially when those people agreed to support you and to help you, you're not being a burden to them. And I know that's part of a mindset thing, but keep asking God of how He could help you with that feeling if you do feel like that. What's another thing? Forgiving someone. I forgave someone. So somebody left, and I forgave them pretty quickly. And a part of that I didn't realize until I look back on it, is that moment when that person left, my mom started bringing me to religious conferences, so my relationship with God grew, even though, like, at that age, I didn't really quite understand why I was going to these conferences, but I'm glad that she did, because it did help me become the person who I am today. So I did forgive that person, but like 3 years later, I realized I didn't forgive myself for blaming myself for everything that occurred with this individual, good and bad. And so, because I didn't realize that I realized I was blaming myself, but I didn't realize I had to forgive myself. So when I realized that a lot of emotions came, I was like blasted with emotions of realizing, oh my gosh, I blamed myself for things that I didn't have any control over. And I had to realize that I didn't have control over those things. Those weren't things if I did something else different, yeah, maybe those things could have turned out differently, but the past is how it's written. It's permanently written like that, and there's nothing I could really do about it. And I have to learn to accept that, hey, stop imagining what could have happened because it cannot be rewritten. And taken, not taken, that's I had to forgive myself for all the blame I caused on myself and the fake scenarios I put in my head that could have happened if I did one thing different or if I did that thing different. Don't think that, because that just puts so much stress onto yourself, and it's not necessary, and it gets in the way of forgiving. Forgiveness is an action of love. Not everyone forgives, but those who do, those who forgive display that it's not just about themselves, I guess. I have this idea, but I don't know. It's not quite formed in my head. So I learned how to forgive myself. I just realized I never finished the story. I learned how to forgive myself, and by doing that, I first acknowledged that God forgave me, and I had to ask myself, do I believe that God forgave me? Because I'm aware that he did, but do I acknowledge that? Like, do I agree with God that I'm forgiven? And that was a big thing for me. Because, yes, right now I do forgive myself. But when I was in that forgiving process of myself, some days I would say yes, some days I would say no, just depending on the memories that popped into my head, because I recalled so many things, so many events. And yeah. And when I was blaming myself during that time, I put on a lot of stress onto myself because of the fake scenarios and the what ifs. And I realized that I cannot keep on thinking like that, because it would just damage me more, and it may limit myself in the future from opportunities that I could possibly be doing. And so I learned that I, one, had to acknowledge that God that he did forgive me, and that he will forgive me for other things, but especially for that event, because that really took a toll on myself. And then I had to meet God and had to agree with him. Yes, he did forgive me. And then for me in that process, that's how I personally acknowledge that I forgave myself. So yeah. But it could be different for other people. That's just how it happened with me. And by forgiving people, you may still feel hurt. I actually don't feel as much pain thinking back onto that specific memory with that person anymore. I don't feel the pain. I don't even feel the blame anymore for what occurred. I don't imagine scenarios. Nothing from that memory hurts me anymore. But then again, this thing all started around 4 years ago. Yeah. I would say 4 or 3-ish, give or take. And yeah. I would say last year I would not feel like this, but thinking back on it, I'm not hurt by it. I'm glad that I learned from it and that I learned to forgive before I was taught, hey, you need to forgive people, because I was recently taught that. And first, this memory came up of me forgiving this person and myself, but then like 2 other memories came up, and I'm just like, wow, I never forgave those people or myself um, for being angry with them. And so I'm learning to work on that, because those are things that one of them has been with me for like a while, and I just didn't realize that, hey, I need to forgive this person. While like this other person, they just haven't came to my mind, so I just didn't like recall, oh, hey, I have to remember, I have to work on forgiving them. But sometimes that's more difficult than others. Like the one person I think it's going to take some time to forgive, while the other individual, it's actually quite easy. Now I'm just working on, once again, forgiving myself for all the blame I put onto myself. I just realized I put a lot of blame onto myself that isn't necessary, but nobody tells you that, hey, well, I guess people they do tell you not to blame yourself, but they never say, how do you stop blaming yourself? And honestly, for me, I just wrote down everything. So I wrote down everything to the one individual. I never send it to the person. I probably have it somewhere. But you could write things down. Oh, right. Sorry. I had this thing next to me. I almost totally forgot to mention it. So when you're stressed out, or when you don't know what to do, or you want to forgive someone but you don't know what to do, and you just want to get everything out of your head, write it down on a piece of paper and then rip the piece of paper apart. So like for my PE class, I actually had to do this today for an assignment of like, some fell, but not all, which I'm glad, because I would have had to pick that up. We had to do this for our assignment. It was just write everything we're stressed out about and then rip out the piece of paper. And I had, hold up, this thing's annoying me. I had so much satisfaction when I was ripping up the piece of paper, because I took out all my anger and how I felt and just everything out on this one piece of paper. And I'm glad, because it reminds me of the videos on TikTok of how people would get a plain plate and a Sharpie and just write all over it and then crash it, smash it against the ground. And I'm just like, it's like the same thing, except less dangerous. So yeah. So I suggest just finding a piece of paper, any size, and just write it. It could be front and back, and just rip it apart, because for me, it at least helped releasing that anger and everything I felt at the moment, releasing the pressure within me. So if it helped for me, maybe it could help for you. Don't, at least try it out before you say, no, it's not for me. Because if you say, no, it's not for me before even trying it, then that's not a true statement. All right. So that's it for today. Thank you for joining me here today, and be sure to subscribe for more videos and hit the notification bell to know when I'm going live, and be sure to leave a thumbs up and a comment of what was your takeaway from this video. All right. So see y'all next time. Bye, y'all. Just getting settled here, and we'll begin shortly. All right. So I'm currently going through trying to find which college suits me. I'm just going to take these off so there isn't glare for y'all. Put these there. So I'm currently trying to figure out which college to choose from. And first, I realized that this has to be organized or I will be all over the place. So one of the things I did was I went to my college counselor at my school, even though I didn't really have much information of like which school did I want to go, but the college counselor did ask me a lot of questions, and so I'm gonna give you these questions so you can ask yourself. So first one was like, do I want to go to a 2-year college or a 4-year college or university or more years? So like, how long do you want to be in school for? Do you want to go to a public or a private? Do you want it to be a school where only one gender goes or where both of the gender go to that school? So those are like under like what type of college basically. And then the size of the college, that was like something I was just never considered before. So like you could have a small school where there's less than 2,500 students at the school, or you could have like a medium where it's 2,500 up to like 7,500 is like a medium school. Or do you want a large school where 7,500 go up until 15,000 students will go there, or like a very large university where it's over 15,000 students are there? So thing to consider is the size of the school. Another thing to consider is the setting. Do you want to live in a small city? Do you want your school to be in a small city, rural, urban, or suburban? So like the suburbs. So like if you're in the United States, it's so big. So which location of the country do you want to be in, or do you want to go outside your country? So like in the United States, you could go to the Midwest, the Mid-Atlantic. You could also go to like the New England area, the Southwest, and then the West. And then you could also, if you want to, go international, or you could just have an hour drive from your house or a few hours from your house. So that's a thing to consider. Do you want to drive to your school, or do you want to take a plane, or do you want just, some people, they live near college campus, so do you want to go to that college and just like take a few steps and boom, there you are? Another thing to consider, do you have any like, so if you're in the United States or if you're in another country, is there a certain area of your country do you want to go to? So in the United States, do you have certain states that you would like to go to school to? Or is there some locations that you're just like, nope, not for me, I don't want to go to school there? If you suggest a school there, I'm just going to say no because I just don't like the weather, or I don't like the climate, or it's too north for me, or it's too far away from home. Whatever, like, find out about these things about you, and it'll help you decide on which college you want to go to. And then is, what's your academic area of interest? So what major do you want to do? What's like your number one major that you want to do? Or what's the area, maybe it's not a specific major, but what's the subject? If you don't have like a certain major just yet, then what's your subject? Or what's so that's for your primary. What's your secondary major? What's like your backup, or other things you're interested, because some schools don't provide everything. So if you find a school that doesn't have your first, does it at least have your second and your third? That's a thing to consider. Oh. Another thing to consider is what type of college activities do you want to have? Do you want to have sports? Do you want like Division 1, Division 2, or like third division? Do you want it to be competitive or a club? And do you want it to be like a code ed club, a code ed sport, or like one gender, I guess? Do you want like sorority clubs? Personally, me, I would say no, but like at the same time, I don't know. I may change my mind. Do you want any like honor programs at your school? Do you want any clubs or organizations? So think about the things you are doing at your high school, what type of sports you're in, what type of clubs you're in, what things do you do outside of school that you wish it was kind of in your involved in your school. What type of subjects do you like? What's your favorite class, or one that you don't really mind if you continue to do it? And figure out which like classes you're just like, nope, I don't want to do that one anymore. Or what types of sports or clubs or organizations you're just like, I tried that, but I don't really like it. Make a list of that, because it'll help you out with like your major, what type of clubs you want to look for at your college, your university, and do you want like any religion there? So like for me, I would want like Christianity or Catholic. So yeah, and if religion isn't a thing for you, then you don't have to worry about it. That's fine. But I know like for me, that's a big thing, and I would like to be able to like go to a church near my school, so I don't have to like in walking distance in case I don't have a car there, depending where I am. And also I'm aware that like first year students don't really have some colleges may not allow them the first year students to park on campus, so you may not have a car the first year, so you have to make sure whatever you want is or whatever you like is nearby and easy to access and is in walking distance. Even if it's like snowing, you're still able to walk to there, you know? So those are things to consider. Oh, another thing to consider is like cost. Do you mind the cost, or do you not? Do you have a range a budget that you don't want to go over? So like that's something to consider, especially if you're paying for your own college, or even if your parents are helping you out, like have that conversation with them. And then do you want to have like housing on campus, off campus, or do you want to be like driving to your college every day? So like depending on where your college is, you may not be able to drive to it every day, but if you have the ability, would you want to make that 5-minute drive or hour drive every day times 2 because you have to come back? Or I know for like freshmen, you have to live on campus for like the first year for some. So after your freshman year, do you want to stay on campus or do you want to live off campus? That's a thing to consider. And you may not know that until after your freshman year when you realize like how some of the dorms are. But then remember, some colleges have it where they have a certain location for just freshman dorms, and then there's others for the upperclassmen. So that's a thing to consider. Maybe become friends with upperclassmen and visit their dorms so you know what it's like, and find out if you like it or not. So that's something to consider as well. And then figure out what's your major factors of deciding in college. So like mine is major, and if they have tennis, and how the dorms look like, and then I have like location. So yeah. And then keep track of which colleges you visit, because that's a good thing to just keep track of, as well as figure out maybe you won't find out right away, but try to find some colleges that suit your criteria of location, size, setting, if they have your major or not, if they had any of your clubs, activities, sports, if they have a sorority, if you want to do that, if they have volunteer options, if they have your religion there, like churches nearby or some way to express your religion. Sorry. Temples, if they have temples, if I forgot which religion that is. I'm sorry. So basically, do they have a way for you to express your religion? And what type of degree? So like, do you want your master's, your bachelor? I said that out of order. It's bachelor's, master's degree, right? Or do you just want associate's degree? Or yeah, there's probably others, but those are the things that come to my mind. Okay, so those are like ways to find out which college suits you, and also keep track of if you're gonna take the SAT, keep track of your score, and for the I said SAT, so ACT. Do you want to take those two tests? Do you want to take just one? Keep track of the scores. I said that. And keep track of your practice SAT, because I know like my high school every year if you're not a junior, so like the sophomores and freshmen take a practice ACT every year to help them, and so keep track of the scores. So yeah. And then what's your current GPA? That's a good information to know. And remember that like all colleges, they have like their average GPA of acceptance. Remember that there could be higher GPAs, there could be lower GPAs, there could be GPAs right at that which they accept. So keep that in mind when you're looking at like schools statistics, that number isn't like a defined number, it's the average. So they take all of the students' GPAs and they calculate what's the average. So they add them all up and divide it by the number of students accepted that year. So yeah, so keep that in mind. Don't let it scare you. As well as for like the average ACT and SAT scores, don't let it stress you out. So yeah, I think I just hit my laptop, but all right. So thank you for joining me here today, and be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed this information. I'll be sure to make a video about questions to ask to colleges, or how to format those questions, so how to make them personal to you and not just questions that everybody asks. So I'll be sure to make a video about that, because I'm currently making questions to ask colleges because I'm visiting them. So yeah. Another thing is to do a lot of college visits, especially now with them being virtual. You don't have to travel anywhere, so you could have like a college visit each day, and they tend to be around an hour long. So it's not a lot of time as a usual college visit would do. So take advantage of those while they're still through Zoom, still doing those virtual meetings. Take advantage of those because it's very helpful. Okay. So be sure to leave a thumbs up, and what questions do you still have about how to find the best college for you? This was just like somewhat basic, but basic is a good foundation. It's a good start. So yeah, we'll see y'all next time, and bye y'all. All right, so as you could tell from the title, we are going to talk about, hold up. All right, we're going to talk about, I'm going to talk about how I keep organized and the different strategies I use. And I just realized that one string's longer than the other, but that's all right, because life is imperfect. Everything is not symmetrical. So yeah. Okay, so one way that I'm going to be starting next month is so I've printed out the calendar of May because the next month is May. And I have 2 separate calendars. Both of them display the next month, May. One of them is like my business, one is my personal. So for both of these, I have used markers to color coordinate certain things just because of the like tiny space I have to write in them. So at like I put red at school. I honestly just went through the rainbow. I didn't choose any colors for any certain reason. I just made a key for myself. So I'm aware what color represents which item on my calendar. So like for school, I have it from like 8 to 3, from Monday through Friday up until like the 26th is my last day of school this year. And so I've written that at the top because I just wrote basically, if I know the time, like if I have a certain time for something, I write it in like that sequence. But for other things like posting on Instagram or TikTok, I just wrote underneath it. And I write like, what do I have to post on? Do I have to post on my story or just make a post? So I wrote that. And or for like TikTok, I just wrote how many times do I have to post per day, just like as a reminder. And then like Wednesdays, I go to youth group. So I wrote down youth group from like when it starts to how late I could stay there. And I forgot to write one thing. And it's like my practice for college essays, but that's because I still have to look at the time for that, but that's all right because it's not until like that last week of May, so I can look at that to make sure I have the right time. And another thing I could put on here is like college virtual visits and then write the time, or when I have tennis, I will write that down. And it will just help me organize. Also, putting on my daily goals on here to reach my personal goals. And then for business, I could do the same thing with those daily goals, but specifically for my business. And like for my business, I have for the YouTube channel, I have reminders when to upload, like Mondays, Saturdays, or the days I upload. So, and then in a different color, I wrote which days do I have to prepare. So Saturday and Friday are the latest days I could prepare for the next day video. And as well as what do I have to do on the days my videos upload, like my Instagram posts. I'm going to try to do the blog and the Facebook. So make sure to check those out. I have them linked in when you go to my channel. If you go to About, there's a bunch of links at the bottom. They're down there. You could go to that link in the description, the linked tree, but I do have to update that. So I actually should put a reminder of that somewhere. Black, just because it's the first color I saw. Okay. Just put it on Saturday. Update linked tree. Should probably update linked tree, and then another one's LinkedIn, so I have to update that one as well. So I spell it incorrectly, but there. So many links. Anyways, so that's one way I'm going to try to keep organized. Another way is like for school, I have a certain area where I write all my assignments for the day, and I write when I have tests, I write when projects are due, I write when quizzes are due. Like today, I have a quiz in my math class, and tomorrow I have a test for my accounting class. As well as like right when my finals are for 2 of my classes, because my school personally isn't doing any finals unless you have like your grades aren't that great. But I do have an AP exam coming up as well as a college exam, so I have to prepare for those and make sure that I'm not pushing everything off to the side because I'm aware that like when you have like a longer time to do something, it seems like, oh, I don't have to do so much. And then you realize tomorrow or the next day, 2 days, in the next 2 days, you're like, oh, it came closer than I thought. So I have to make sure that I am studying for those things. Even if it's just a little bit a day, it's better than cramming everything the night before, because that is not great, because our attention span is not that great when you study straight through. There was this, I know a college professor said this, but I forgot which one, but I saw a YouTube video about it where he said how this girl, she studied 6 hours the night before, and like the test, she didn't do so well. But if she were to, and she studied like straight through, no breaks. But if she were to study for like 25 minutes and take a 5-minute break and just repeat that until like 6 hours are done, she would have 5 hours and a half of great studying, as well as 30 minutes of breaks in total. And the reason why you should do that is because like after around like the 25-minute mark is when your attention span like isn't as productive. Isn't, yeah, sure. I was going to say another word, but I couldn't think of another word. And so when you take that break at the 25-minute mark for like just 5 minutes, when you start studying again, your attention span is like at a higher level than it would be if you were to just continue studying. Yeah. Continuing studying without any breaks. So I found that quite interesting. I'm going to try to do that. I've been trying to do that. Another way you could keep organized, I was going to say study, but that's not what this video is about. So another way you can keep organized is, well, first you gotta know what your daily goals are, and a way to do that is by creating a vision board, finding out what you want to complete in a time frame. So like 1 year, and then what do you want to complete overall? And in order to achieve those goals, you have to make sure you're doing those daily activities. So what are those daily activities? You could write them down on a calendar or in the reminders app, or have it like alarm set on your phone, and like retitle the alarms to say, oh, hey, now you have to like go to the gym, or hey, you have school in like 5 minutes, or don't forget to start your car because it's like cold outside and you're gonna go somewhere in like 10 to 5 minutes. So yeah, I was just using examples from that one was from winter. I remember before I would drive somewhere, I have to make sure I start my car so it's not freezing. Some people may not relate, but I do. I'm aware that some will, some won't. So yeah. This video is kind of all over the place. I'm aware of that, but that's all right, because sometimes life is all over the place and sometimes it's like to the book. But a reason why you should keep organized and like understand what even the next day will be is because if things do come up, then you're not stressing out of everything you have to do because you have it written down somewhere. And it's easier for me, at least, to like visually see what I have to do instead of like keeping every thought in my mind, because that will get crammed. It will get so you will not have enough space in your mind. Well, yes and no. It just calms your mind. It like cleans it up if you have it written down somewhere and you're aware where it's written down. And it's good to have like the calendar in front of you where you are to remind you, not just like have it somewhere where you're gonna be for majority of the day, because otherwise, if you don't see it throughout the day, then it's not going to be a helpful reminder as it's supposed to be. So keep that in mind. Thank you for joining me here today, and be sure to subscribe for more advice, more information. I was gonna say something. Oh, like Mondays we talk about God. I was trying to figure out like about information about what, and then I'm like, oh, right, God. Um, and be sure to leave a thumbs up if you did enjoy this, and if you learned something. If you have any advice of your own that you think it's important to share with others, be sure to comment that down below, and we'll see y'all next time. All right, bye, y'all.